Hi, I'm Tim and welcome to the UK Festival podcast. I'm at the newly opened Mayfair cocktail bar and coffee shop in Bungay, Suffolk with Silas Rayner, founder and chief organiser of the Maui Waui Festival. And today we're going to discuss the question, how to put on a festival. Located in Norfolk and having just celebrated its 10th year, Maui Waui is a brilliant example of a larger small festival. Its last edition had more than a dozen different venues, all with great music and a fantastic atmosphere. Now, Silas, could you introduce yourself and share how you initially became interested in festivals?
Yeah, so I am, as you said, Silas Rayner, organising Maui Waui. I have always done music events. I put my first event on when I was 12, and it was a folk night in a pub. And I suppose I come from backwoods country where things were very different, in the not so distant past, but I grew up in quite a musical family, so music was a big part of my life, and it wasn't listening as much, it was more playing. And my folks used to organise buskers nights, and then we started a band and just started putting events on. It was not a sort of, you don't think about stuff too much when you're younger, you just kind of act.
I can do this, let's do this.
Yeah, I think I describe my whole life as a practical joke that's got way out of hand. Someone needs to put the brakes on sometimes, and if they're not around to do that, then this is what you end up doing.
We're sitting inside the Mayfair, as I've said, which is in the process of being turned into an incredible venue.
Another practical joke that's got way out of hand.
So, what was your first festival that you ever went to?
So there used to be the Greenpeace fairs. If you're from this area in Suffolk, Norfolk, then Greenpeace was it was kind of an institution in that kind of hippie, fair, old festival community. And it was, I think I went to every one.
Every one of the Greenpeace
since I was a baby, yeah. And my father, Les, and my mum, and they used to be, I don't quite know the full involvement, but they used to help out with the Albion fairs and things like that. I wasn't born. I suppose that was the sort of the small scale introduction to camping in a field of music and people drinking in a kind of social sense. And it was the highlight of the year as a child, I think. But then I grew up on market stalls. So that was pretty dull. I've got to be honest.
All the market stalls and all the festivals, so you went to them all and didn't have a good time at any of them?
Not really. Well, no, the market stalls, they were more like trade fairs, so they weren't fun. It was all about business. And but my first proper festival, the one that I'd say was like, wow, this is amazing, was Download Festival.
Oh, same, actually.
Can you believe that?
What year?
2016.
I was there. It was pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, I said Hasty Dixie played there, and at the time I was obsessed with the band. Oh no, what were they called? No, it's gone. The name escapes me.
Send it to us in production, we'll slip it in.
Yeah, I like them that much, can't remember their name. But the Download's an extreme festival, isn't it?
It's
and I have to say, I would never, ever, ever want to be responsible for that event.
No, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Like 200,000 people or something?
It's huge. It's quite frightening. I love that kind of chaos culture, but seeing the tents getting heaped up in the middle and burnt. And it was like it was a riot. Yeah. Which made it fun. But, I don't think I'd want to be the one in charge.
No, the liability on that would be terrifying.
Yeah. But I'd just say, funny enough, I never went to loads of festivals.
Okay.
And in some element, I think it's good not to be pre-moulded by what other people have done. Equally, you don't want to go in blind to something.
Yeah. So, how would you describe your vision? Like, for our listeners who may not be familiar with it, could you tell us a bit about Maui? Like, what makes it so special? I know that's coming from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, that's something I can't really answer. But I have, after 10 years of doing it, I think I've got a bit of a clue that it's not anything you book or do. What you do is you allow the space for people to be free enough to do what they want to do. In a sense that, I used to love looking at the pictures, because you put a festival on that you'd like to go to. And of course, as an organiser, you don't see any of it.
Yeah, you can't go. You're on the phone the whole time.
But then you look back through the photos, and me and Charlotte have been Charlotte's in the room. This
Yeah.
is the stage manager, Charlotte. She's
Say hi, Charlotte.
silently observing from the background. And we'll be sitting behind the main stage, and we're just like dealing with problems after problems. And when I look back for the photos, and just the other side of this temple, there was this incredible thing. There was a whole group of people stage invaded, dressed up, fancy dress, and they just took over the main stage, and we knew nothing about it.
That wasn't planned.
No, and I was just looking back. I could not believe this had happened. So, and I think that's part of the magic. But what I really think the vision for it is, if you go somewhere, it's like when the whole ethos behind fancy dress, or if you go somewhere where you don't check your phone, you're not looking at your watch, you're not thinking about what you've got to do on Monday, you're going to have a good time.
Yeah.
So and that's where I used to always say the Maui should be a feast for the senses. You're so overpowered by all this colour, creativity, music, socialising, people, art. There's no room for anything else, which means instinctively you have a great time.
This is true, by the way. I've attended Maui a couple of times, and it's absolutely incredible. So,
Thank
yeah.
you.
So, how many, what have your attendance figures been over the last few years? How's it grown and stuff?
So any
Pandemic's hard, I know.
I don't like to refer to Maui as a business because it's a terrible business.
Yeah.
But the 5-year plan became a 10-year plan. It's now a 15-year plan. I'm just lucky. I'm so glad we're still going.
It's amazing.
You look at the dropouts. 26, 27 festivals have gone this year. And that's another. We've been a slow grower, which I think in hindsight is a really good thing, because number one, your ego doesn't get too inflated, your budget doesn't get too inflated, your aspirations are kept grounded. Although, what you aspire to do might be amazing, but the reality, and what it means is you have to make do with little, but you can do great things with not a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that constraint inspires a bit more out of the box thinking. I go to bigger festivals and I look at some of the things that are being done, and I often almost makes me want to cry, in the sense that if I had the resources and budget that these guys have, and I just watch I've seen some awful things, just really badly executed money being pissed up the wall, and I sort of think, Jesus Christ. But at the same time, we've done amazing things with half of these budgets. But we're now 4,000 people. Getting back to your question.
Yeah.
First year in Maui, we had 1,000 people come.
Was it 1,000?
1,000 turned up.
No, it was that big.
Yeah, first year, and that's what I think. I was, it's grown slowly, and much slower than I would have liked it to, but it's not a business. It is, because it has money. Money dictates loads of stuff.
You can't outright lose.
This wasn't started. It was an accident. It wasn't started as a business. It wasn't. It was never there to make us loads of money. It was there because we couldn't help but do it.
So that gets me onto what made you believe it was possible? What gave you the inspiration to think you could do it?
I don't think anything gave me the. It's an uncontrollable desire to do it, despite what everyone tells you. Quite a few people, close friends and family, did not want me to do the festival. They thought it was far too risky, and it is. And actually, if the things that I might say now are the sort of things that I wouldn't wanted to hear when I was first starting out. But it's like, imagine if you had enough money to buy a house, and instead you bet it all that it wouldn't rain on a weekend in the summer in England. That is basically what you're doing.
It is basically that. Yeah.
But I didn't think about that at the time.
You're in East Anglia, you'll be okay.
Yeah, there's a certain amount you have to really want to do it, and you also have to be blind to some of the realities of the hardships of it. Because if you think about anything too much, it often puts you off. So I generally don't think about it too much.
So how did the first festival go? You said 1,000 people attended. Were there any unexpected challenges or successes?
We got away with it. I think there was literally 4 of us doing the whole thing
in high vis, or
no, just organise. It was manic. I I thrive in pretty stressful situations. I kind of love being thrown in at that deep end. not everyone does, but other people, if you get a few people who like that and you're just bouncing off each other, you can do a lot. But the maddest thing about the first Maui is the key people that made it happen weren't booked, planned, or I didn't even know them. They just turned up, and I do think we as a arts institution are so lucky to have had these people come aboard.
So, can you give me some examples of members of the team who came?
Yeah, well, I mean, the one that strikes me is festival. So, I thought I could do everything at the first festival. Blindly. Oh yeah, you just put some generators and you plug them in. That was it. And then I started thinking, oh god, I need to really know what I'm doing now, don't I? And then I sort of didn't. And then next thing you know, all this equipment turns up, and I got to be honest, didn't know what anything was. But I thought, we'll work all this out. And this guy, I'd never met him before. His name's Damien Goddard. He just popped along and he sort of went, and it turns out he was an event electrician, and he'd come because he'd heard in the pub that someone was doing this little event up the road, and he thought, I'll pop along. And that's actually, now I know him, he's quite a busy guy, he's not often available, so the chances of him just out of the blue turning up, just to see what's going on, and if it wasn't a demo, that first year wouldn't have happened.
Would it have just not had any sound?
Because the generators, they weren't the best generators. There was all sorts of problems, but because he really knew what he was doing, he managed to get it working. And he's been with us ever since. Everything we've ever done, Damien always comes through and sorts it out. And I'm eternally grateful for those.
I've never seen the power drop off on site once.
No, but he did once.
2017, wasn't it?
Inflatable stage.
Yeah.
Did you see that one?
Yeah.
The 1 year we had an inflatable stage, we had a power cut. And I was actually in that tent trying to hold the roof up. But I have to say, when the power eventually did go on, it was the biggest cheer and the best atmosphere ever. That was cool. Yeah.
So, if a group of friends wanted to start a tiny event, the smallest starter festival, how what are the 5 essential things they need to go ahead to do it?
I don't know if I could list 5 essential things. Do you talk about practical?
Practical and emotional,
Yeah, I think you need to want to do it, because you have to. Also, so if knowing what I know now, I'd advise that you don't do it. Right now, if you ignore that advice, that means you're the sort of person that can do a festival. If you're the sort of person that's put off because someone tells you not to do it, you're not the person to organise a festival. Because let's face it, you can describe 100 reasons why not to do something, but there might only be one reason why to do it. And if that one reason why to do it is powerful enough to make you want to do it, then that means you can't help but do it.
So it almost doesn't matter what resources you have.
No, and you learn on the way, but I can't necessarily say that my journey was the one to advise people to do.
Well, it seems to have worked out.
It seems to have worked, but is that luck or is that
true.
Who knows? And it doesn't really matter, does it? But there is a certain amount of this that you can't be taught. You can learn about the practical things, what you book, what you do. On paper you can read it all, but the reality is you can't be taught it. You have to learn it, because then you develop your own identity and your own way of dealing with situations. And every festival is so different.
It's true.
Go to lots of there's various forms. I'm talking about independents. Big sponsored festivals, they have a certain formula.
Yeah, 3 big stages.
But you do fundamentals. Let's get back to the question. Stop getting distracted. You need a venue. You need a crew of people, and you need infrastructure. They're the three main things.
And once you've got those,
and people, you need people to buy tickets. And I honestly, this may sound contradictory, but I've always used the element of surprise to put on a great event. And Maui, I think the reason we got 1,000 people come to Maui was I had no links with any other festival. I hadn't been doing festivals, and I didn't have any previous relationships with any festival suppliers. And I actually intentionally chose a sound and lighting crew who didn't do festivals, so that there was no preconception about what it was going to be like. And that was quite a conscious decision, I remember at the time.
So do you think you got a bunch of people coming along purely to see what it was?
Yeah, because they couldn't believe that they didn't know. anything about it.
Yeah.
So you know that kind of, you get that internal crew culture.
Yeah.
It's almost like notches on the bedpost of which festivals have you done. And that was why I chose a sound company who didn't do festivals, because I didn't want little old Maui Waui to be another notch on someone's bedpost, right? And I think it worked because people didn't know me, so people would talk about Maui to me, not knowing it was me putting it on, and it was a real people couldn't believe that this whole big event was happening and no one knew anything about it or who was doing it. So, although it sounds ironic, because really to sell yourself you need to be pushing yourself everywhere, but I think the element of surprise and people, and it adds an element where people have a really good time, and I think that is a little bit of the Maui magic, because people never really, they know more now what to expect, but you can never be certain.
No, you really can't. Every festival is slightly different. Like,
yeah.
Last year, I just wandered into the Old Time Sailors in the middle of the night. That was a blessing.
Yeah.
So they're like this 27-piece folk act. It's incredible. Like,
they are nuts. They are crazy.
Are you getting them back next year?
They are coming back next year. We were in a so it was quite funny booking them because they come across as pirates, of course. Now maybe I am a pirate. I don't know, but we basically gave them permission to take over the bar, and they all turned up, and I've got 27 pirates in front of me, and they were like, just sort of, I don't know, where's the stage, where's the things? And I'm like, come on, you pirates, just go for it. And I sort of threw them right in at the deep end, and I think the crowd started to form, and they literally had to set everything up in front of the bar, and almost the setup was part of the theatre, and it actually was brilliant. I don't mean this in any kind of like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. Like, it's that the artists were surprised as the audience that they were performing where they were performing, and it meant that there was no plan, there was no staging of that. It was honest, raw fun.
Yeah, it was so immersive. It just grabbed my heart. And
yeah, it's great. It was cool.
Yeah. That leads me on to like the idea of lineups in general. Like, so how do you approach picking a lineup? Do you like have a list of people you want, or do you see who's available and go from there?
I think it's changed. That is still my favourite part of the job. Is choosing the bands. You get lost in, and I get physically worked up about it, and emotionally worked up about it, because I'm passionate about it, and it's the element that I try. Me and Charlotte book all the acts for the festival. Apart from now, there's 2 stages that we don't, and that's still like still have to be a little bit like. Ugh. But the thing is I kind of rotate what's going on.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you've ever been to a festival, probably have, and you thought everything's the same. Every fucking stage is playing the same music, and you think, how has this happened?
Even some of the big ones.
That's like, my worst nightmare.
At Secret Garden Party, I've had that really badly.
And I can't help but think, how the hell? And now I know it's because one person isn't doing it. And so this is like you have to look at the event as a whole. Now, obviously, as the organizer, it's really easy to do that, but it's much harder. And this is where good crew and good teams come in. Is for someone to be able to objectively look at the event as a whole, not just their stage, because it means sometimes there's not. Maui, I think, has a good proportion of excellent things on the whole time. I would say that, but you don't. In order to give every stage its golden moment, that means that there's not a golden moment happening somewhere else, or it all depends. Obviously, it depends on the size of the place, but
I would have thought it's got harder with like having 12 different venues now.
It's getting that way, yeah. I mean, there's six sort of main ones.
6
there's
stages,
all the little micro venues.
Yeah. Like if you count side tent and Ushkushi and stuff, you've got.
It's getting there, isn't it? God, it's definitely getting bigger than I remember it.
You're almost medium-sized.
But basically you have to create this stuff. So if you've got drum and bass happening on there, you need a bit of bluegrass happening there. And if you've got a bit of rock and roll going on there, you need a bit of festival jump up, Balkan stuff going on here. It's something catering for everybody. And that's what Maui's tried to do, is cater for everybody. And that is hard. It really is hard. But we strive to do that.
In my experience, you do quite a good job of it.
Thank you.
But
That's
also,
good.
like, Last time there was a night when it was just felt like, okay, have I been picking the bands? What's going on?
Yeah. I mean, the thing, and that's the other. I once asked Chris Tofu, who was Shangri-La, I guess, but he's behind the scenes quite a well-known character, and I think he denies this actually, but I don't know whether he did or not. But I said, well, what is the key? Because I was getting disillusioned with it, and I was thinking, God, why aren't we selling out? Why aren't we selling 5? This is like, year 3 or something. It's about 8 years ago, and he's like, you just got to spend as much money as you can on the biggest name you've got, even if you know it's not the best use of money, because the name on the poster is the pull. And I thought about it, and when you look at, acts, they're just getting more and more expensive. And I play both sides. I play in a band, but I also book bands. So I am the artist and I am the one paying the artist. It's a difficult coin to spin. But I can't do it. I can't go and play, 40,000, 50,000 pounds on a big name. I just don't think it's worth it.
No.
And if you can book one band for 10,000 quid, or you can book a bunch of amazing little bands. And we are spoiled for choice in this country. The quality of music is incredible.
I think I've got to thank you for that, because it's the grassroots events like Maui Waui that make the music so good. Because if people didn't have a place to get started, then they would never get good.
I mean, that's very kind of you. I don't think I give myself that accolade, but as a whole, the UK festival scene definitely does. And because people want to do it, it's cool, it's exciting, it's a nice way to spend your summer. Playing music is a great way to do a summer festival, a tour of festivals. And as an artist, you don't get paid a lot. Even I've got good friends that are in really successful bands, and they might be being paid 5,000 to 10,000 quid. But once the management's taken a slice of the record company, the touring company, all the managers, everything. Once you boil it down, and then the songwriter gets more, and it's just it's this sort of machine of hell.
It ends up being 50 quid a night, just like it is for a band who you've never heard of.
I'm not going to mention their names because I don't want to embarrass them in case they hear it. But you think, God, you are, you had a number one, and you're still only earning 300 quid a night. And it's just, and you think, and that's what it boils down to. The £10,000 fee figure gets chopped down, and I'm thinking, God, I know, you just can't go in it to make money.
The entire industry doesn't make money. Well, with the notable exception of Live Nation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I've had near dealings with them. It's like anything corporate machine, isn't it? It's designed, and I'm just talking honestly. I quite enjoyed Latitude. As the band are playing, Mighty Flux, we had some of our best gigs there. Brilliant fun. But they take your water off you. You can't take your food. I just found it depressive.
Yeah, I was at Boomtown last year, and the drone flying overhead just gave me prison camp vibes.
Yeah, I'm talking about that. It's like in Glastonbury is a different situation because they played on the idea of who can break in. It's almost like a game, but still, you're basically building this prison fortress, and outside this wall, you don't have fun. Inside, you do have fun, but and getting between there and the other side of that Heras fence is a right bastard.
Well, if you don't carry a spanner with you.
Yeah, and there is an element like I hate Heras fencing. It's like being penned in like animals.
I know you use very little of it around the festival.
Yeah, and me and my crew have conflicts over how easy it is how hard I make it for them to run it. Because I don't want to lose certain feelings to it.
I must admit, I've spoken with some of your crew who have given me that sort of
silent. I know, and I have been giving in to certain ways, partly because the law and insurance says I have to, and partly because I don't want to make anyone's life miserable. Equally, I don't want to become another porter cabin, portaloos, site officers, Heras fencing and security guards. It's just so dull. I'm sorry, it is.
I spend a lot of time walking around the backs of commercial festivals, and they're not nice places.
No.
Like, they're nice because of the people who are there, but it's like gems in the mud.
Do you know what I don't know if we're allowed to say this. I might get in trouble now. Maybe
I can cut it if you don't.
Our site office this year, I'm not going to describe the words it was called.
No.
No shouts. So don't. But if you were to open the site office, which was a metal porta cabin, container, it was full of smoke, gather, and a stroke machine. And that's my middle finger up to your standard porta cabin festivals. So the site office was completely useless for anything. And it's because it arrived, and no, it's good, you've got to keep this in because it arrived, and I was really excited about having a container. It's heated, it's got lights, and it's plug sockets. And I thought, oh, we're going up in the world. And so I got there, it arrived, I sat in there, I put my laptop on, I realised you're in a metal box, you don't get any phone signal, you can't get internet signal. And I sat there and I thought, God, I could be anywhere. I could be at any field, anywhere in the country, and it could be any other festival. And at that point, I went, right, no, I'm not having this. So we filled it with smoke.
New venue.
Smoke and strobes instead. Because you can't let go of your identity. And you can't, if you feel that way, you just got to go with it.
That brings me on to, the next step. How do you, plan the layout and the amenities? You know that there's certain things that are required to make it, you need to make it work. Yeah. But how do you, so I guess there's some heuristic number-based decisions for how many toilets and how much water and stuff. And that's probably all quite procedural. But laying it out and where it all goes?
It's tricky. So this is, it's always an ongoing journey, and there's no right or wrong answer. But when original Maui, when it was in Peak Hill Farm at Theberton, it was just a big rectangular field. It's hard. And it took me It took me 7 years to get to a point where, and I was learning on the job how close. And I used to be really concerned about noise and pollution. I thought this idea that stuff can't be too close together, and I was so wrong. I've never been more wrong in my life. I mean, literally, you can put stages right next to each other, and as long as you're standing in front of the speakers, it's all right. I mean, some of the stall holders get a bit of a raw deal, but what you need to create this hub, and it's lovely festivals in beautiful locations. But the reality is, you can't have this plonked out over there on its own because no one goes over there. It might look beautiful, but it doesn't work. So, so we finally got to 7 years in at Peak Hill Farm, a layout we're really happy with, and then COVID happens, and we have to knock it on the head and move sites. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I finally got it to a point where I liked it.
So why did you have to move sites? Was there
the farmer, Rob, he's a lovely guy. We're really good friends. I think I was short. I mean, working with me was definitely shortening his life, and quite frankly, working with him is shortening my life as well. We love each other dearly, but we don't hold back. And he got the fear, and I completely get it. COVID really worried people, and his point to me was and he was very right and justified. His farm doesn't move, so something bad happens there. He can't pick his farm up and move. He's there in the community, and he was terrified of causing a COVID outbreak and being shunned by the community. My festival could fold, reborn, I could start a new one, I could move. I was transient, and that was his reasoning, and I can't fault it. He's right. But sometimes those things at the time that seemed really bad were actually the best things ever. And now we've got the most amazing venue in Dereham.
Yeah, your Dereham site is incredible.
Yeah.
When you first found it, what was your thoughts upon seeing it? Did you just
we went to see a lot of sites, and it's going with this gut instinct, and I think I can sum up what the gut instinct is now, right? If you can shut your eye, if you can walk into somewhere or approach a situation or a question, or you don't know what to do, if you can close your eyes and just imagine it, and not even close your eyes, if you can just imagine a really mundane situation, and we walked around a lot of fields and just felt nothing. Couldn't visualise it, couldn't see it, couldn't work it out, couldn't imagine I was there. And I like to imagine I'm a punter, standing at the bar holding a pint of ale. Really, there's nothing, not some big band having an amazing time. You're in a field, and you can see the bar, what it looks like, you can see the view out, and you order a pint, and you're standing at the bar, and you look across your festival. And I walked at Dereham, and I just saw it. I stood there, and I just saw it. It just popped up here, there, and everywhere. And the whole site was just already, within about 10 minutes, I imagined the whole festival. and that's when you know you've got to do it. You know, so that was a great thing. And of course, we've been getting slightly busier from Dereham, and that site, and this would be our 4th year at Dereham. I think. Yes, 4th year.
It would be.
And I think we've got our layout there now. Worked really well last year.
Yeah.
You know, it had a real nice, and there's no corners. You could basically, the idea, particularly for a small festival, you want to be able to not stop. You know, you get wanderers. They start the circle, and you've got 3 or 4 bars. So you can all basically, as soon as you run out of one drink, you can find yourself at another bar, get another drink, watch a band, but you don't ever stop. You can constantly keep going.
Yeah, no, there are no corners at all. There's nowhere to get trapped.
Yeah.
Well, apart from the good music.
Yeah.
So, how did you, like, you said a bit earlier about how your electrician came on the crew.
Yeah.
But in general, how did you, like, start building a team up? Did you have to put, like, some announcements out for, like, volunteers and stuff, or...?
So volunteers, yes. I mean, we always have that, and it was a real struggle to get enough.
Do you struggle still to get enough volunteers, or...?
No.
Alright.
No, and that's only really recently. I think once you get well known enough, it naturally starts happening. And then the other situation happens. You've got to. The struggle is to identify the good ones.
Yeah.
But I do. Crew is. I'm probably not the best person to ask that because I feel really lucky. Most of it's accidental. I've never gone out looking for crew. People find you. You find people. It's a bit of both, and chance encounters and. A lot of the first crews that we started out, some of them aren't there, quite a few aren't, and the people that I'd now consider 100% core to what we do are completely chance encounters. You know, there's no formula for crew, but if you work well, I mean, first of all, you have to be prepared to do everything yourself. You have to, you can't, there's no job that I'd ask anyone else to do that I won't do myself. And I've done it all.
Yeah.
Done it all.
To be fair, I've seen you on stage.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen you behind the bar, but I'm sure it's happened.
No, actually, I haven't done it. I've worked the backstage bar, but I've never worked on the main bar. Funny enough, I haven't had time.
Get yourself an hour free.
But I've done my fair share of toilets cleaning, because at the end of the day, often it's quicker to do it yourself than find the person to ask them to do this really shit job. Yeah. Well, you might as well just go and do it yourself. But having that scenario means when you do that, other people do it as well. Which means that having recently worked with some complete idiots, I now feel blessed that I work with amazing people. And it does, sometimes you don't realise how lucky you are. And how do you find them? I don't know, I think now if you're the kind of person that wants to achieve great things in a nice environment with people, you will naturally gravitate towards each other. But a good crew member, you could ask to do anything, and even better, you don't even have to ask them; they've already done it. But that is hard, and you can't.
And you need to keep them happy if they're like that as well.
Yeah. I mean, maybe jumping the gun, but one of the hardest things about running a festival, and it's the thing I least expected, I hadn't planned for. The fun is easy, because of course it would be, because you want to do it. But the really hard bit is managing people, because there's no rules and there is no standard. And people change how they feel. And the hardest thing ever is and it's now we've got bigger. I hate upsetting people. That's the worst part of the job. Is when you have upset someone, and it's never intentional, but I upset people all the time.
Well, with 4,000 people on site, it's going to be impossible not to, isn't it?
But I've got a situation which I often think back to, and it breaks my heart, because we always give gifts out to the crew. It's like name t-shirts, mugs with your name on it. There's normally every year there's a little perk, and I used to love doing it, and I had to sort of really rein it in, because now I don't even know who all the crew are. But I used to know everybody.
Yeah.
And then someone asked for, I think it was a Maui mug, and this woman asked if she could have one, and I said, I'm really sorry, they're reserved for people who've been helping and working. And she started to cry, and she said, I've worked for you in the kids area every year since day one, and then she threw it at me. And I was like, oh my God, and I felt mortified. It almost makes me want to cry now.
Yeah, no, that's horrible.
And that's when I was like, oh God.
This has got too big.
Yeah. And it's now got to a point where you can't be that intimate. And I hate it, but it's just something you've got to get over.
Yeah, I suppose that's...
So I now rely on, I say to people, I have to be made aware that I'm neglecting someone. Because I don't mean to. But, that's all part of having a good crew. They have to, but there's no rule. No rule.
So, do you still hope to grow more, even though the complexities of getting bigger are getting more and more painful?
Not much more. Nice to sell out, and I don't know why, and we've never sold out.
You're selling too many tickets. Not giving enough away for free.
We've got a 5,000 capacity. We can handle another 1,000 people. We've never sold out. I'd love to sell out, and I think 5,000 is a lovely number. It gives you enough income to do great things.
Norfolk is 5,000, isn't it? They do some things. They're a lot like you.
I've never been.
It's the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
Slightly bigger.
Yeah.
But they've even got an octopus, actually.
Oh dear. Sounds like competition.
Nah, they're closing down this year, so you've won.
I'll have to take mine along. Yeah.
Take your octopus. Go to the last festival. Convince everyone.
Is this their last year as well?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's across the entire industry.
Yeah.
They're all...
So that is a tricky one. No, 5,000 is a good number. Small enough that it feels intimate, but large enough that you can still book those great acts.
So, do you personally pick the beer on the bar?
Used to. I used to. We've had a very similar range, but
because you work with Green Jack, don't you?
Yeah, Tim's a good friend of ours. He's always really looked after us, and he's, like I said, I started doing folk nights in pubs when I was 12, so I've known Tim for a long time. Not that he was selling me beer when I was 12, but I wouldn't go anywhere else. And Maui's quite loyal to people. I think that's another thing.
To be fair, if you stopped with Green Jack, I'd be very disappointed.
Yeah, why? Great beer. It's a good price. He does a great service, and he's a lovely guy. Why would you change?
Yeah. Do you think that's the best approach to doing the bars then, just tying with a local brewery?
I've never done it another way.
Fair enough.
So I don't have the alternatives. However, I have seen the alternatives, and I think the trap people fall into is becoming a generic festival bar with very expensive beer served by people that don't smile, and it's not that great. Because
the bars at Maui, they're not cheap, but the beer's very good.
Yeah, what's it, $4.50 a pint?
What? Really?
Yeah,
it's a lot less than I remember. Wow.
Yeah. No, we're not.
I guess I was thinking about the cups as well, because I always lose mine.
Yeah, so it's $4.50. It's $4.50 a pint.
And then $1.50 for the cup, right?
And it was either £1 or £2. It's never been 50 because 50p's issues. So it would always be £1 or £2 a cup.
That explains why I got confused last time.
Yeah. So what's upsetting about the cups is, the cups are always a nightmare. And you try and do the deposits and all this, and then so we did the solid cups, and that cost a lot of money.
Well, I would have thought you'd be they're less than £2 each, right?
Yeah, but it costs us 3, 4, 5,000 quid to get them printed. So we started off doing the deposits, but what's upsetting about the cup now is almost they've become, and it's still better for the environment, but they've almost become disposable. Everyone has to buy a new cup.
Well, you say they've become disposable, but I say they've become collectible.
Collectible, yeah, quite.
I've got about 30 festival cups in my van.
But here you go. So we used to. So now we just sell them. We don't do the deposits because it just people won't bring them back in.
So do you? Is it just collecting? Do you just have people go out and collect them now?
No, people generally do. But I don't know where they go. But because we don't do a deposit return now because it was very difficult managing it, and in the end it just didn't seem the right thing to do. So hold on to your cup. It's not that hard, is it? You think so?
Yeah. No, I know it is that hard. Like the number of festival cups I've lost on a dance floor.
Yeah, but someone else picks them up, don't they?
Yeah, so it stays in rotation.
Yeah.
Legally, are there any particularly thorny places that a new organiser could get caught on and screw themselves over?
With loads. Unfortunately, I suppose the thing is that saying it's all fine. If nothing goes wrong, then there's no concerns. And the older I get, the sort of the burden of responsibility is felt heavier. That when I first started this, I sort of you hear that saying, the duty of care is with the landowner, and you have 50% shared duty of care as the landowner and the event organiser. But really, it's the event organiser. I know that's down to legal grounds, but I have 100% responsibility. I am the reason everyone's there, and I would say that's. I don't know if that's a legal way to. I've never, fortunately, touch wood, we've never had anything really bad happen. But I do think that element is maybe as an inexperienced organiser that is overlooked. And if you didn't overlook it a little bit, you might not ever do it.
So what's the best way to mitigate it? Do you need liability insurance?
Oh yeah, of course you need insurance. I have quite a funny relationship with my insurance broker. I give him scenarios. Hi Steve, let's say there's a stallholder that turns up. We didn't know it was coming. He just turned up to set up anyway, and then someone trips over a guide rope, and they fall into a buggy that's driving past. Am I insured? And if the answer is no, I say I want to be insured. Because I don't understand. Who reads the small print?
No, you need to know.
Who actually? Let's be honest here. Who actually reads the small print? I used to try, but you don't really get to a point. You're blinded by it.
That's what
so
it's
now
for. Leads.
I give scenarios. I was like, okay, well, your broker should be your expert. So you don't need to be an expert in insurance, but that's quite a good technique. Give them examples.
Would you mind saying how much the event insurance costs for that?
About £3,500.
Oh, that's not as bad as I thought it would be.
No,
I guess because you've been lucky.
But I don't. Yeah, I don't. We don't have. So this is the other thing, is a lot of festivals have bad weather cancellation insurance.
Do you not?
Now, I don't have bad weather cancellation insurance. Now the reason is I can determine at what point they pay out.
Yeah.
Because I said, okay, well, so in order for the event to be cancelled, has to be a decision between the authorities and the insurance company. So let's say at midnight on a Friday night, how do you get hold of your insurance company? So you choose to cancel it, your authorities cancel it. What if the insurer comes around and says, well, I don't think it should have been cancelled? You're not covered. And I looked into it quite a lot, and there is quite a few examples of small independents not getting paid out because
when their
the insurance company has a much bigger legal budget. But however, big festivals. I mean, look at someone down in Cornwall. We Boardmasters, yeah. We did Boardmasters twice, and twice it was cancelled. But they get payouts. But I don't. I find it. It's a real grey area, that one. But event cancellation insurance would cost double what I pay.
So how bad would the weather have to be for you to cancel Maui? Would it have to be dangerous?
It just become a mud run instead, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
Maui Waui mud run.
I wouldn't assume any amount of rain.
So danger's dictated by can the emergency services come on site.
Yeah.
If the emergency services can't get on site and you can't get people off site, then that is a cancellation level.
You have to.
Weather, isn't it? Fortunately, where we are, pretty good site, I think. And as what you do is you mitigate. You have temporary trackway available. Yeah. You have, we've got the fire range. So we had a fire last year.
Year before last, wasn't it? But it was before the festival itself started.
It was, and my argument there was it doesn't burn twice, does it? And it sounds crude, but it's true. But that year was hell. But we got through it.
Yeah, no, that was 2022, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the worst year ever.
Well, you had no rain for about 6 months before the festival.
Yeah, and then it rained on Thursday when everyone turned up, and it turned into a month. So we went from extreme fire risk to flooding in one night. 9, but we got through it.
You got through it. It was a good event.
Yeah, it was. But no, that did shorten my life that year.
So, how did you decide on your security team? Because bad security, to be honest, can be the worst thing about an event.
Yeah, I've actually turned around from events before because I thought the security was so appalling that I didn't want to be there. And it is. I mean, again, I'm fortunate enough to have met and worked with. We used to do gig in the park in Hellsworth. I don't know if you. It was on for years. I took it over, and it's really just a nostalgic event. But there's a security company set up by the guys that run it because of this exact issue. Heavy-handed, unfriendly, people that weren't accepted into the police or army, so they become security. Sorry to tarnish with a brush. I don't mean anything rude to anyone listening who is that person, but it is a stereotype that comes with it. And so they set up the GITP security company, and so that's how I knew them. And then I just carried them over.
Yeah,
lovely bunch of people.
Yep, they are a lovely bunch of people collaborating that.
And I do have. I am conscious to be careful what I say, but I would rather someone got in for free and had an amazing weekend and went home raving about it than they didn't get in and they were beaten up by security at the door. If you priced me those two options, I'd much rather have not got the money from that person than they had an amazing weekend. So that is the side I will go with, rather than the person who was stopped had a horrendous situation and got in a horrible place because of it.
Even if they weren't a ticket holder.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I'm giving you two extremes.
Yeah.
Someone turns up, has a bad time because of overrough security, goes home feeling really shit about themselves and had a crap time, or someone who got in for free, they didn't have a ticket but they had a great time and went away raving about it. I will always choose that option. Yeah. To my detriment.
I don't know. I feel like the advertising's probably worth more than like the 160 quid,
Yeah, well that's it. And I had this argument with, this is back in Theberton, with a member of security who got sort of unofficial member of security. Got a bit heavy-handed, not violent, but threatening. And I ran over and I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "They're going for free." I was like, "I don't care." And then me and him had this argument. I was like, "No, I don't care. I'd rather they get them for free, have an amazing time, and they get out for free and go home thinking that they got away with it, when actually they didn't get away with anything because I let them." That's a much better scenario.
It just builds camaraderie.
Maui's about fun. It's not about conflict.
I hope that this doesn't lead to you going over capacity and
selling
less tickets.
No, well again, that's the thing. And my poor security company last year, they had a right old trouble. But and that's why you have to balance everything. It's balancing the weighing scales of life. What can you get away with and what can't you get away with? And unfortunately, every year we have to have a bit more security. A bit more thing, because ultimately, I can't put the festival on for everyone coming for free.
Does the council tighten up requirements at all, or the police?
Yeah, I mean, police. I've always had a great working relationship with all the councils, and so the council. A good way to look at the council is they are there to enable you to run your event well. So they advise you, and sometimes they know more than you, sometimes they don't. They don't know everything, councils, but I see the council as part of the team. They're part of the team. They enable you to run your event well and safely.
That's so different to the adversarial relationship I hear about.
I know, that's what I honestly cannot fathom why people look at it like your opponents. You're not. The licensing and council are there to enable you to do your event. So why people see that as this block, and if they say you can't do it, it's for a bloody good reason.
That does sound reasonable.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it is sometimes not, though.
No, because councils are political parties.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about it from a merely practical sense. What that doesn't take into account is all the little wormy sideline self-interested views of political parties. That's a totally different ballgame.
Yeah.
But that exists with people wherever you find them.
So that kind of leads me on to the next point. Do you think there are any things that should be changed around the laws surrounding events?
That's a hard question.
I mean, the Association of Independent Festivals are going for the VAT reduction, but
yeah, that's not a law.
That's not a law.
That was the best thing government had ever done, was do that for the arts industry, and they should have kept that going, because most people I know in the business had the hardest year ever the year after. You know, 2022, 23 was hard. You know, and you now see the reason they're all cancelling now is because that's the fallout. All the
23 was also the worst summer we've had in years.
I know, it was,
in terms of weather. Yeah,
and it's really hard, and it is a shame that something which I think is a public service, arts, it is a really important. Imagine if you didn't have festivals. Yeah, you can go on holiday and all this, but you know, look at the outlet of creativity that we lost. And I think it's an institution. I think it's an important part of our cultural identity.
I have to start going to nightclubs, and that's horrible.
And to think that, you know, there should definitely be financial consideration to what festivals give the population. You know, and every art has its version of that argument. But you know, it's I think it's a human right to express, get together, and socialise.
So that leads me on to do you think that maybe they should repeal the Rave Act as such?
Oh, what do you mean by the Rave Act?
Well, there are a few things. There's a few different bits of legislation that combine to make free parties completely illegal.
See, I don't know. I'm not up to date with it. I mean, funny enough, I think the free party rave culture was probably what inspired me to do this sort of thing, because I find it amazing that you could do that, and you could turn up. I didn't know anybody, and you can put an address on your answer phone message, and then put some speakers in a field, and 600 people turn up. That's amazing. I think it's always been incredibly under the radar, isn't it? So you can make it illegal, you can arrest people, but you'll never stop people doing it.
No, that's true.
You know, because the people I know that have done that and do that won't stop because it's illegal.
No.
That doesn't play into the choice. The decision making never got that far. I do have a, you know, I think if it's the right people, I think generationally, ravers are always really nice people, and sometimes they're not now. I don't know. I had this, you know, I had my fair share of, you know, going raving and things like that. I think it did get a bit unfriendly.
When do you think this was?
Well, everyone has, this is sliding baseline, you see. Everyone has their own version. And I think maybe we just get older and stop going, and therefore we don't like the youth. You know, I'm only 33.
Yeah.
But this was really, you know, this is late teen stuff, isn't it? My theory on it was probably 2006, 2008 stuff. It's vans stopped going. People in vans stopped going raving. They stopped making police cups of tea. They stopped. And it was the van culture, the people that had a kettle in a kitchen that used to look after people. You know, and yes, you're going raving, but you still like to get up and have a cup of tea in the morning. You still, you know, want to brush your teeth. You still want to. And once it all becomes about this sort of drug nighttime sort of big man culture, quite frankly, it can all piss off. I just think it's completely lost.
Yeah, you're right. The people who are having fun are the drug dealers making money. Everyone else is just being exploited. It's.
I think it's misguided. And if you talk about it, and for someone who's never been, you've probably got preconceptions about what it is like, and they might be right or wrong. But it was never about just going somewhere and getting wankered. It was about the thrill and the community of these misfits, misguided people that didn't fit into a nightclub, didn't want to go out in the pub. They wanted to be out in the wild, dancing with mates, having a light laugh. And you take too many drugs, you can't do that anymore. So I think the whole thing has been churned up, and maybe, you know, I don't know. You know, I haven't been for so long. I wouldn't even know who goes now. But I do think it has changed.
If you were to make everyone at Maui Waui on one substance, what would it be? What's your favourite punter drug?
Water.
Water.
Because it's the best drink you'll have all weekend. You know, this cocktail bar, 2 weeks. It was intense. It was amazing. We had a whale of time. Served a lot of cocktails. Drank quite a few cocktails. The best drink I had here was a pint of water when I shut the doors, and without a doubt. Sorry, that's a bit boring, isn't it?
No,
but it's true. It's true.
People love water.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I've got to on that. I think people are best on their own. I think it is ultimately, you know, whatever people take and want to do and get drunk or whatever. I still think people that aren't intoxicated are the best.
To be fair, if you want to get anything done, you're 100% right.
Yeah, and you just get it's just real, isn't it?
So, do you have any final tips or pieces of advice for someone who wants to put on like their own first film?
Yeah, don't. So that gut. I think now everything I've done. The reason I've been sure I can do it, even when everyone's telling me not to, and you think, oh God, if it all goes wrong, I'll look like a total dickhead. If you can imagine it, then it can happen, and that is it. And if you can't imagine, if you're slightly confused about what you're doing, you can't really imagine it, you probably haven't found it yet. But I can only speak for myself. But that is the baseline of what if I choose to say yes or no to something, or decide to do something or not, it's definitely because I can imagine it.
Okay, that's such a good way of thinking about it.
And that underlines everything.
All right. And any closing comments, maybe about this place?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is, and we are sitting in the Maui Waui office, which soon we're going to get some nice big pictures of the festival. And I feel like, oh, we've got an office now. We've got a place of belonging. You know, because we've always been a bit transient. But yeah, the Mayfair is it's our hub, it's our bar, it's our cafe, it's our space, it's our fun, and it's permanent.
When are you opening?
We're opening a week on Saturday.
So
whatever that date is.
April the something rather. Probably before April the 20th.
Yeah, hang on, we are. So yeah, the Mayfair, we are going to be opening on April the 23rd.
Ooh, exciting. Right. Well, thanks so much for talking.
So, no, the Mayfair, we're going to be opening on April the 16th.
16th, okay. Well, thanks so much, Silas, for talking to me. Thanks so much, Charlotte, for letting me be in your office.
No, well, thank you for coming down. It's an absolute pleasure.
Oh, it's been brilliant. Cheers.
All right. Thanks, Tim.